think we're live.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you are in the world. This is the Backdrop CMS user group. It is the 31st of July 2025 in most parts of the world, and we're planning to do a series of lightning talks just about different aspects of backdrop and PHP development. My name's Martin Price, Yorkshire Pudding Around Backdrop, and I'm in North East England. We'll go to Tim next.
Hey, my name is Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim on the internet. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota today. A nice, pleasantly not hot day. Whoever's next. Justin, did you go?
Nope. Justin Kaiser, Kaiser JB on the internet, not only in Muncie, Indiana, but I'm heading back here from Denver because I was out there for a couple conferences this week. Not backdrop specific, but PHP stuff, Drupal and Laravel. So maybe I'll talk about that experience.
Izzy?
Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm a developer backdrop enthusiast in Vancouver, BC. I'm happy to be here. Jen, is she around?
I'm here in theory, listening from Oakland, California today.
Okay. Well, I can jump in. Today we are doing a well, that worked good. Okay. We're doing our user group meeting, and what we've decided, we haven't been doing a great job at keeping like full a schedule of presenters for long topics, but what we've asked people to do is just bring anything they'd like to demo or do a lightning talk on. If it could be a case study, a site you've just launched, a module you've just discovered, or one you've just built, or anything you've been working on, or a conference you just attended, that you can use this time to do a quick talk about that. And we'll just have a series of sort of informal mini talks if we don't have anything bigger scheduled, and we don't. So we have a few ideas lined up for things folks could talk about. We haven't decided an order yet. I'm willing to jump in up front and talk about the National Parks Traveler website, which I just recently upgraded from Drupal 7 to Backdrop. Let's check the time. I want to not take a wander on too long. So let me share my screen. And I'm currently looking at the dev site. Let's switch over to the live site. We'll come back to the dev site so this is National Parks Traveler. This is by far the biggest and most trafficked website that we manage on Backdrop. Was on Drupal 7 until very, very recently. We just launched this actually 2 weeks ago on Backdrop. One of the, while this is a pretty big site, it's also a nonprofit. Budget was of a concern in terms of doing an upgrade. I talked for years with the client about upgrading to modern Drupal and/or Backdrop. With the uncertainty of a lot of different things, the client was sort of held off on making a decision for quite a while. One of the concerns that we had to do with the fact that the Drupal 7 version of this site was built using Panoply. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Panoply, it is a distribution based on panels for Drupal, for those of you who know Drupal. And one of the things about Panoply that was of concern for this upgrade, which is why I'm talking about it, is that on any particular page in Panoply, you could click customize this page, and you could sort of drag blocks around, create new blocks. I'm probably not doing this I didn't make much content this way, but the point being, in this site over the last 7 or 8 years, the editor, this site produces 7 or 8, sometimes 7 or 8 new articles a day, and the client had the ability to customize the layout for any individual article, and that makes it tricky to do an upgrade when we don't have a one-to-one sort of mapping of layout. We can't say all articles, or we can't assume all articles have a certain layout. And in fact, we couldn't even narrow it down to a handful of layouts. There's theoretically an infinite number of possible layouts that the client could have used, and he didn't really know, like, have a clear grasp on when and how he used those. And sort of part of solving that problem was, one, managing expectations with him. And eventually we sort of settled with the idea that maybe once we did we actually had done an upgrade where we sort of reformatted some of the pages, and it went fairly smooth in Drupal 7. It made some assumptions about what the layouts were of certain articles, and that had went smoother than we expected. And so it sort of reduced our anxiety about if we forced all of the content into a new layout, that we would be breaking less than we thought we would, and the implications just weren't as great as we thought. And we sort of convinced the client was very nervous about this originally, that if after the upgrade, that some of the content might have a new layout. But we gradually realized that probably wasn't as big a deal as we thought. We did a bunch of research, figured out that there were some types of content that were fairly limited, where he had, for example, the supporter pages. All of these pages have very custom layouts, like this 3-column thing thrown into it. But there's only a handful of supporter pages. And rather than worrying about automating the upgrade of those supporter pages, which the client really wanted to update anyways, we just decided that we could manually rebuild those. And there were some other examples like that. We would occasionally stumble. We couldn't find a way to reliably do a search query that would turn up all of the pages that had been modified, where the original default layout had been overridden. There was like a database table that had a flag for that, but it turned out to be unreliable, that we had a lot of false positives and just lots of things turned up as having been overridden that really weren't. So it wasn't useful. What we eventually found that was kind of useful is, mostly in the cases where he did override the content, he wasn't using the default body field, that he would override the content, create a block, and add the what would have been the body field into a custom block. And so the body field wasn't being used. So we thought maybe we could do a query that identified all of the nodes with body fields that were empty. But we found that in a number of the cases, there was some content in the body field that wasn't being used, like a sentence or two. So that didn't work. So we kind of settled on having a query that looked for body fields that had less than X number of characters. This was not a perfect solution, but it allowed us to sort of get a sense of how many articles were showing up, to sort of spot check some of them and verify that the problem wasn't bigger than we thought it was. And just sort of get a handle of like when and what kinds of situations the client had done this. And so we did that. But in the end, I think the big thing I wanted to showcase, which was one of my colleagues, I said, we sort of resolved with the client that we would, any of these pages that were layouts like this on the old site, that on the new site, we found as many as we could and just sort of tried to manually fix those. But as most of these, a lot of these are going to be very old content that doesn't come up very often, and maybe we don't worry about it too much. If it does come up, Then we just copy and paste the content from the archived Drupal 7 version, which we're keeping into the new site. And it occurred to me that maybe there was a way we could make that process of copying the content to the new backdrop site easier. And I asked my colleague to write a script to do that, and he ended up writing this script. And I'm going to jump to the dev site. So we have an archive version of the Drupal 7 site, and then we have a dev version of the backdrop site. And as I mentioned, all of these pages were examples of pages that have really custom layouts. And we had just planned to manually rebuild these, but then my colleague wrote this script, and I don't love the label for the button, but it works. What I'm going to do though here first, I am on the dev site, so this doesn't matter too much. Actually, I'm not going to worry about it all because it's on the dev site. So I'm just going to delete the body field. We'll throw in a few extraneous letters there. So this might be what we see if after our upgrade, pages that had overridden the layout might just have a little bit of content or be fundamentally broken in a way. And now if the client is looking at his site and he comes across an article from 8 years ago that happens to be overridden, he can click on this button, click fetch update, fetch and update content, and it's going to automatically run out to the live site, the archived version of the Drupal 7 site, and it grabs the HTML from sort of I forget exactly which region, the content region or whatever. It's not looking at the body field. It just grabs that and gets all of the HTML and pastes it directly into the body field. So now what we end up with is a body field. Wait a second, this one, we had the columns are visible here. We switched to TinyMCE on the dev site, just we're testing it. And I don't know if that's why with CK Editor, this was appearing exactly as it does in the front page in the body field with the columns and everything. So anyways, the point being is that we were able to sort of grab that content, with just a button click and pull the raw HTML. Now, this is not ideally how we want to maintain this in the body field. It's a bit confusing. So now the client can at any time sort of upgrade this and use layouts and backdrop to create a sort of better way of building these pages. Or I've kind of discouraged him away from this like 3-column format. But anyways, it's worked pretty good for us, and we were, for example, where we thought we would have to rebuild all of these supporter pages, we were able to just grab the HTML, pull it over for now as a temporary solution, and then over time he can rebuild those. But that was the biggest thing that I kind of wanted to show. Again, I don't have the code, or it can't explain to you exactly how the script works, but it's basically just going out and grabbing that content, doing a search for a certain tag and grabbing the main sort of content region of a certain page on the archive site. And I could, if anybody was interested in doing something like this, I could share the code that we're using to be modified or used if somebody wanted to try something like this. Any questions? I've probably already taken more than I intended. I'm pretty sure we used maybe we didn't. I thought we might have used the upgrade framework that Jen created for upgrading a Drupal 7 theme. But I'm not seeing that here. But we did there was not a new, most of our upgrades to backdrop would involve a redesign. This one didn't, so we did just sort of upgrade and my colleagues did the work. So I don't remember exactly how they did it, but they did just upgrade the Drupal 7 theme, and they were able to get it working pretty quickly. It might have taken a couple of days at the most to basically convert this theme to backdrop. There was so I might talk a little bit about subscription. The old version of the site had the subscriptions module from Drupal 7, but they weren't. A couple of people were using it, but it wasn't being used very heavily. Um, and I think really like new subscriptions had been disabled quite a while ago. So that module is not available for Drupal or for Backdrop. We're in the process of experimenting with porting it because the client might want to revisit that functionality. Just about everything else we needed was available for Backdrop. There might have been, the one other issue that we ran into is that this is the only client we have that has kind of a workflow where they frequently schedule posts and they sometimes edit drafts and then don't, or they were using the Workbench module on their Drupal 7 site. And the Workbench module, we found there is a workflow module, which is a port of Workbench, part of Workbench, but we found it was a little bit buggy. We were going to try to get that fixed so that we could do some workflow features. We discovered that the client really, his needs were pretty basic. So we ended up instead creating a new module called, we're calling it Draft Workflow. It's called the Draft Workflow module. It is available for release, and it uses the forward revisions sort of option in Backdrop so that the client can take a published article and in edit, create a new revision and have the new revision be in a draft state. The client isn't using it much just yet, but we do have this ability to sort of create a draft revision. And then we just need one of the weaknesses I think so far is I would like to be able to create a view of all nodes that are in draft, but that have forward revisions in draft mode that are they're published, but they have draft revisions available. That's one of the things that we can't do yet. Yeah, but otherwise the upgrade went pretty smoothly. Any questions or comments, or we can move on? Okay, Martin, are you ready, or should we actually
Yeah, I'm
just?
ready.
Okay,
Yeah,
Justin, you want to go next? Talk a little bit about the conference you were at.
I mean, sure.
Okay, after Martin, we'll let Martin go first.
Okay.
Okay, so Martin, you go ahead, and then Justin's on deck to talk a little bit about where he just was those last 3 days. Go ahead, Martin. Oh, I'll quit
Okay.
sharing.
Right, time share my screen. Okay, so this is on a module which I maintain, and there was a minor bug which I found shortly after I'd done a release. So I've kind of fixed it and merged it, but it's not yet in the latest release. So what I'm going to demonstrate is I'll use this to demonstrate how you could test a pull request on a module in the demo environment. So I've set up 2 demo environments. The first one, I'm going to install the released module. So the module is GDPR cookies. So we'll search for that and add to install. And I'm going to just install this and show you the the error that we get. So if we go to configuration system, go to the list of third-party services. So if we add third-party service, so firstly, what I can do is it's possible to, at the moment, not to set a name. And if I then save that, I find I can't click on it there. I can, and if I try to edit, it doesn't work because there isn't a name. I can delete it, but I can't do anything. The other thing I can do moment is I could create one called YouTube and then create another also called YouTube. And this produces a messy database error.
Mhm.
It's not handled. So
That looks fun.
sorry?
That looks fun.
Yeah. So so we've got this issue, and so I found these just while I was shortly after I'd done a release, annoyingly. And I created a pull request with the fix for it. Now, a lot of people know that if you're used to doing things on the command line, you can just go to this pull request, add diff to the end of it, and you get you get a diff that you can download and you can apply to your navigate to that folder and apply. But not everyone is comfortable with the command line, so we're going to show you a different way that you can do it. Just go back. Of course, now my computer decides to do a go slow. So what we can see on this pull request at the top is it says Yorkshire Pudding, which is my web handle, merged one commit, but it would normally say wants to merge one commit into backdrop contrib, which is the branch on the module itself. Now this is a branch on my fork, and this is where I want to merge it from. So if you were wanting to test this, but you weren't comfortable with applying a diff on the command line, what you can do, you'll see if you hover over this, it turns into a link and you can click it. Right. That's not good. It has.
Did it close the branch?
Oh, hang on. Here we go.
Oh, there we go.
I've restored the branch. Right, so this should now work.
There it is.
Hooray. Oh, that would have been the end of the demo if I wasn't able to do that. So, right, so what we've got now is we've got my the particular branch where I fixed this issue on the module itself. I'm just going to sync it because it's got it's a bit behind, but normally you wouldn't see that. It would just be ahead. Now, if we want to install this on our module, what we need is a zip file. So what we can do is if we click on this little green code button here on the little arrow and go down to where it says download zip, if we right click on that, we can copy the link address. I'm now going to switch to where I've got another demo. Notice you wouldn't be able to install this if over the top of an existing module. So that's why we're doing it in a demo environment, so you can easily test it, test the module in a different environment. You don't have to delete the module and then reinstall it, but this is a way you can do it. So we've got this manual installation button here. We're not interested in that. We're actually going to install from a URL, and you'll see it gives an example of the type of URL that you can paste in. So I'm now going to paste in this, and you'll see it's from my branch. So it's from my username, and it's got the branch there, and it's got the zip on the end, so we can install GDPR cookies this way. Now, what it won't do, I think I'll also have to install Entity Plus, because I don't think with that manual install that it actually adds it in, but we know that it's needed. So, and we'll get an error if we don't. So, right. So if we now go to the, I'll go to system. So I don't think it's.
Is the GDPR module enabled?
I thought I had. Let's have a look. Functionality, less modules, GDPR. Yes, maybe it silently didn't.
Yeah.
Because all the dependencies weren't there. So it's now enabled. Configuration system, GDPR cookies, list of third-party services. So we now see that name is required. So I'm going to try the same thing again. I'm going to try and create two. You see, I now can't create something without entering the name. I've got to enter it, but I'm going to try and enter one with the same name that I just entered, and it won't let me do it. I think it'll also, won't let me do it even if the case is different. So we can now confirm, yes, I've tested this module and I've fixed it. So if you were doing this, what you could do is go to the issue and you say, I've tested this and it works. So that's a way that you can test a module's pull request without having to apply a diff on the command line.
Yep. So the other, I don't know if I'd thought about like getting a pull request this way, although I might have, but I commonly use the same process for like if I want to test out a dev, a dev version of a module. So there's a module that doesn't have a release on backdrop.org,
So
and I want to install that into a demo site.
Yeah, so if you go to the code bit, and again, you click on that green thing, you can copy the link from download zip and install it in the same way.
Exactly. And I do that fairly frequently. You can also do that. It's nice because you can also, if you've started a new module and maybe it's not even in the backdrop contrib space, but you want to test it again on a demo site or something where you don't have the ability to download it directly into the modules directory, you can use the UI to install a module from your own repo.
Yeah.
So, yep.
So I will stop sharing now.
Before you go on from that one, I guess there is one caveat. If you have already installed the module, and then you install manually the one from the PR, it doesn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to. We did explain this at the time that's why we're doing it on a demo. You have to do it where you either have to completely delete it from the file system, or you do it on a fresh site where it isn't there. So that's why we were showing it on the demo site.
Right. Now, I don't think there's a way on the demo site to actually delete it from the file system.
No, that's why I did 2 demo sites.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. No, those are good points. Those are going to be things people would run into. Yeah. But the nice thing about demo sites is they're disposable. So you can just spin up 2 or 3 of them really easily and try things like this out. And then if you can't delete the file, it doesn't matter. You just go make a new one.
And spin up the demo site with Backdrop on Drupal Forge, and then you would have a VS Code in their coding environment on your live site, and you could delete the module from the file system.
Indeed.
We should try that again in a future user group meeting, unless you're ready to do it today.
But I think we're sort of offering this as a way for people who want the simplest way possible to do it, and I think the demo.
If you're using the Drupal Forge with the VS Code, you can actually drag and drop the file from your computer into the module directory, and you don't have to. Yeah, it'll upload.
Yeah.
Justin clearly wants.
I think people would be people who are not used to seeing a code editor would be a bit daunted by seeing.
Yeah, it's an alternative. It is an alternative for some people, though. So we should talk about it in a future meeting. Any other questions or comments about Martin's little demo? We did. Martin showed this at office hours a week or 2 ago, and I thought it would be good to get that recorded as one of our user group meetings because I think it is a helpful thing. Justin, you want to tell us a little bit about your experience at Laravel or Drupal Camp, Colorado?
Yeah, I've actually been out in Colorado for 8 days. The start of the trip was Drupal Camp, Colorado, last Friday and Saturday. Atten, the Drupal design agency, or Drupal/Backdrop design agency, was one of the sponsors for the event. So I met some more Atten people, and Backdrop wasn't specifically on the schedule, but it was definitely a topic of conversation because I was there.
Okay. We should have bought you some buttons to take. I assume you're out of your old ones.
I had some buttons, but I didn't bring them. I did bring stickers.
Okay.
Everybody loves the dragon stickers. I mean, it's a great logo. I did wear my shirt too. So. And then that was kind of the prelude to the main event. Because I went to a Laravel event. I went to laracon.us. And you say, what is Laravel and what does it have to do with Backdrop? Or Drupal for that matter? Well, it's another wildly popular PHP framework. And it's also written on Symfony. So modern Drupal and Laravel there's some overlap there and they're very closely related. but you use Laravel for building like apps that do database operations instead of like content management system because there's no real front end to it. It's all code. You don't have to do anything in a UI. There are content management systems based on Laravel. I mean, as a Drupal friend says, who taught a class Laravel for Drupal developers, if you're going to make a content management system site, use Drupal or Backdrop. If you're going to do a CRUD app doing database operations, use Laravel. So there were like 700 people there, which is roughly half a DrupalCon or something like that. But they actually limit the tickets to it. They limit the capacity of the venue. And it is a wildly growing PHP framework. Lots of excitement. I learned about a whole aspect of PHP that I didn't know existed, like all of these agencies that I'd never heard of with different names. But
Sure.
you know, other things in common, like JetBrains was there, who builds PHP Storm. Cloudflare was there. TinyMCE was there, and had a booth. So there was all of this overlap, and I was there with other Drupal folks. Randy Fay who runs DDev, was there at both events all week, and some other Drupal folks were there. So we were like Drupal emissaries to the Laravel community. And Backdrop did come up. I mean, I was walking around with my water bottle with Backdrop on it. So
Okay.
any questions?
So if there were one reason as a backdrop developer that I might be interested in Laravel, what might it be?
Well, I can tell you why I was interested in it and wanted
Sure.
to go. I see it as just something else to add to my toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it as something that is popular and growing in such a way that it can easily go with Backdrop, WordPress, Drupal, Laravel. You can do all of those things.
Okay. Okay. Is there any kind of front end? Is there any like a site builder experience for Laravel, or is it all writing code?
It's all code.
Okay.
It's all PHP. Like that, I was surprised at the amount of code that was shown on the slides during the presentations on the stage, but it is all PHP.
Okay.
So it's really for people who want to build apps.
They're things that do database operations, more or less. You don't really find specific examples of Laravel apps out on the web because they're oftentimes like behind a login. So it's hard to like show what it does. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Well, kind of. I mean, it would be helpful to have some sort of like case study or example, but you're maybe not prepared for that today. So,
No.
Yeah.
Hit me up in a few months. Like I'm gonna
Sure.
go home and study on this.
Okay. Any other questions for or comments about Justin's?
I can tell you that the training that I went to at the Drupal camp about it, what we made was basically a Twitter app. It was called Chirper.
Okay.
So you could log into it and make chirps, and then favorite your chirps and save your chirps and delete your
Okay.
chirps and do all that stuff. And it was saving all of that in a database.
In like a Drupal database or its own database?
It's its own database. I mean, its own thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you use MySQL
Okay.
or
Okay.
Postgres or whatever you want to use with
Sure.
the database.
Okay.
But you wouldn't build a Twitter implementation with Backdrop.
Sure. Okay, anybody else have anything they want to demo? We could,
I got something.
okay,
Yeah, I'd like to demo if you've all got a few minutes.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, so I think this is going to share my window. So you're seeing the modules that are available on Backdrop CMS.
Yep, we see it.
Okay, so I'd like to just quickly touch on the module filter module. It's one of my favorite modules, and I'm not alone. It's down on the list here. And these numbers, I think, are underrepresented because not everyone turns on telemetry. But it shows 250 active installs, and it shows the release date of 2021. I'm sure there are a lot more people who use it than that.
Just to clarify, the numbers there are from sites in unique sites checking the update server. The telemetry is a different aspect, but those numbers are for checking the update server, which some big agencies, they do it in a different way. They don't have sites doing that, but they pull those in separately. So that's why it can be unrepresented. So it's separate from telemetry.
Oh, that's good to know. So same thing, I'm using the demo Backdrop CMS site that's on the backdropcms.org site. And what I've done here is I have already installed the module from the repository. And this is how the module behaves, but this is because I've changed the configuration here.
Just take a second.
Okay.
Yeah, if you leave it for a few minutes, it'll go into hibernation. Go ahead.
Right. So what I've done here is I've changed the jQuery to jQuery 1, the legacy version, and in doing that, it allows the module to work as it does in its current state. So when you go to the list of modules, you see the packages shown as a separate vertical bar menu on the left there. And as you see, it will scroll down until it hits the bottom of that. And then even as we scroll further down, that stays fixed. When you scroll up, you seem to lose it, and it goes on. There it is up at the top. So looking at this on the GitHub module filter issues, I did open an issue regarding this, and I went into that issue a little bit. This is all pretty hot off the press. And I did create a PR for it to work with jQuery 3. And I also did a partial fix for that scrolling when you scroll back up. So here I have another demo opened, and it is defaulting to jQuery 3. And if we go and list the modules with, it'll wake up in a moment, as we just heard. And here we have the PR version of the module. And as you can see, when we scroll down, it does go down. And if we scroll up, it doesn't start scrolling here, but then it does go back up to the top. So it's a partial fix for the up scrolling. At least you don't lose the save configuration button. And other than that, the scrolling down is working properly with jQuery 3, and you don't lose the button and that could be improved upon. So this is a PR that is available for testing. And if somebody wants to test it either the way that Martin demonstrated, they can go and grab it from my repo, or they can diff it and make a patch and test it some other way. But I just thought I'd share both the module itself, which is very useful, but how you can now use it with jQuery 3.
Nice. It is a really nice module. I try to put that on a lot of sites, but I don't always use it.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I was prepared, although I'd probably be better prepared at a future meeting, to talk a little bit about subscribing to nodes. There's a subscriptions module for Drupal 7, which lets you subscribe to get notification of any comments that have been added to a node, or updates to a node, or to new, like, or subscribe to a content type. So you say, notify me of any new articles. There's a module that does some of that, Node Notify, that's available for Backdrop. I think that module only lets you subscribe to subscriptions, or to comments, excuse me. The subscriptions module is a little bit more inclusive, and we're in the process of porting it. And I had thought I might show it today, just how far we got to get feedback, because I also am curious if other people have used it. But because we're short of time, we'll save it. Maybe I'll be better prepared to actually show what it does at a future user group meeting. And maybe we'll have it working, the Drupal 7 version of subscriptions, and we can compare that to the Node Notify. Anyways, that's it. Let's wrap things up. Anything else? Any other final announcements before we end the recording? Okay, thanks everybody. I'm going to end